If your nights and weekends are a chaotic mess of open tabs, sticky notes, Google, Facebook groups, and you're trying to get the perfect lesson, you're not alone. I used to spend my nights and my weekends trying to not only get the perfect plan for one class, but for multiple reps until I realized I could simplify and create one repeatable system. So if you're like me and you have multiple tabs open right now, hit the like button so that you know you're not alone. So the first thing that I do when I'm lesson planning for multiple preps is I start with the prep that I feel the most comfortable with. It is typically the easiest one to prep because I feel confident. I feel like more of an expert. So I start with that key course because this is what is going to drive everything. Then I take that key course and I have found a framework that I adapted from English Language Arts, and it's called Introduce, Practice, Produce. So the idea behind this one is that you introduce your topic, then you give students time to practice it, and then they produce. Many times within a class period, within a lesson, within a unit, and it makes it easy to prep for because as you start getting used to a framework, and you can use this with any framework, then you can start just looking for key pieces. So instead of having to look for a lesson plan in its entirety or come up with a lesson plan in its entirety, you start to fill in the gaps, which we're going to talk about later on in this video. Okay, so let's say that I am teaching an introduction to engineering design class. I have it mapped out, or at least I know what I'm going to be using for my standard for that day. And so that I've decided how do I want to introduce this topic. So I am going to decide to use a protocol called Think, Pair, Write, Share. I'm going to use that. I can really quickly come up with the prompt that we will be using in that lesson. And so that is going to be my introduce for the beginning of the lesson. Now then I'm going to do practice. So for practice, the protocol that I'm going to use is a gallery walk. I want them to learn about different aspects for the lesson, but then I'm going to put them into small groups and have them create posters that they are going to walk around the room and give each other feedback, which is going to then lead me to produce. So produce for this lesson, because the gallery walk is probably going to take some time, this part of the lesson, I'm going to use an exit ticket. So the idea here is now I pretty much have at least given you the framework of one class. So now the idea is we're going to look at our other courses. Now they may not be on the exact same schedule as far as when the unit started and where you are within the unit, but this is an example that can work for that. So now I'm going to be looking at manufacturing, and I'm going to take my stranded standard and figure out, okay, I'm already using Think, Write, Pair, Share. And now how can I adapt what's already there? Will the gallery walk work again? Will it work for this group? Yes or no? So I'm going through all of the different things and I'm trying to see with each prep, what can I reuse from that initial lesson plan? What worked? What's going to work? What needs a little bit of tweaking? Maybe I need to use something else, but maybe I can use the rest of the lesson. So essentially I go through every single prep for that day and make it super easy so that I'm using each one of those protocols as much as possible. It will save you time in your prepping because now you're batching, because I'm thinking of Think, Pair, Write, Share. What am I going to be prompting the students with? What will gallery walk look like? I can have all of my supplies and materials ready for the gallery walk, and I can make sure that those are readily available. Sometimes you might rearrange your desks or your chairs in your classroom to fit that protocol of the day, and you can make sure that that will seamlessly work out so that you're not having to juggle between the different preps and rush in that 5-minute passing period between your different prep. So here's the general breakdown of that 30 minutes. The first 12 minutes is making the plan for that first prep, the one that you are most comfortable with, the one that's going to require the least amount of Googling, the least amount of going to other sources and resources. Then the next 10 minutes is how to adapt what you're already doing in that class for the rest of your preps. And then the last 8 minutes, you're filling in the gaps with other routines. If the think, write, pair, share does not work for this particular class, now you've got to find another protocol, and you're going to be using the 8 remaining minutes to do that. Now, another reason that I've been able to do this so quickly is I have started to use AI to also make this faster. So I use this initial prompts, I use this structure, and then that's when I know where to go to AI, what questions to ask, how I can ask it to reformat, redo things that are already working. Now that you've seen how I plan fast, let's talk about what slows multiple prep teachers down the most. In the next video, I'm breaking down the number one mistake multi-prep teachers make when it comes to lesson planning and how to avoid it.